Whether you're planning to run a full-fledged campaign or just a simple one-shot, you're gonna need a story. So where do we go to find those? Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner and welcome back to another episode about tabletop role-playing games. Today, we're getting into something that I know a little bit about. And I'll explain why I know a little bit about it coming up. But we're talking about where to find stories, where to find adventures for your players, and the pros and cons of each different source of adventure you might find. So in my opinion, there are three different sources of adventures that you can use. First off, there are the officially published sources, the stories that are made by the companies that publish the games that you're playing, aka modules, as some might call them, or campaign books, or source books, or adventures, different things published by the actual game developer who makes them. Number two is adventures written by other game masters, often called homebrew games. These are things created by other game masters just like you that they decide to share online. And last, the source that I prefer most is your own brain. Your own creativity as a game master can be a source of great games that you and your players will enjoy. Now, let's dive into a little bit of the pros and cons of the officially published content. Every game system has some pre-written game content that the publishers have made available to the players. But the downside of this, one thing that I notice, and everyone notices, is you gotta pay for it. And I know it seems kind of picky that you gotta pay for it, but I'm just saying that is something to consider. If you are coming up with a campaign, you need to know that if you want something officially made, you're going to have to buy it from somewhere. But by purchasing these books or these stories, you get a lot of value out of them. The books come in various sizes, from full-fledged campaigns that can run a year or more, depending on your adventure party and how you want to run them, to all the way to one-shots or simple short stories that will take a much shorter time period. So you have run this full gamut of lengths of stories that the publishers have made available to the players. The other plus side of this is these things have been tested and over and over again. The publishers have resources that we, of the players and game masters, often don't have, and that is they can make these things available to certain people who are well versed in the games, and they can play it and check it and make sure that it's fun and fair for everyone involved. This is the playtesting phase, which often comes before actually publishing the adventure, so we don't see that part so much, but it's there, and so we know those adventures are going to be well balanced. Anything that's kind of included in the adventure, the story, the encounters, we'll say, the traps, the fights, will work for your adventure party because it's already been tested by other people who know that it will work, which is a great benefit of these stories. Someone else put in the work so you don't have to. They're also very well written. So when you read through these adventures, and we're going to do an episode on how to prepare a pre-written adventure, but as you'll see that they're really well written. They often comes with some kind of descriptive story blocks that you can read out loud to your players, or things that you may not have thought of, descriptors that you haven't thought of as a game master that are just written in there, and you can use them in your game. In addition, you can take anything that's from that and use it in any other game. So you get extra value after you buy the book. You get to use it everywhere else. The other side of this is for the people who aren't as creative, or don't feel as creative, I should say. Everything's kind of laid out for you, so you don't need to sit there and rack your brain on the perfect ending or the perfect beginning of your story. You just need to read the book and see what they have for you. It's all kind of laid out, so it takes a little bit of the creativity out of the preparing the story part, but then you get to use your own parts when you're actually playing the game. You can build on it as you see fit as the game master. So a little less creativity for you because they put all their creativity in it at the company. And the last kind of pro of these things that I really like is it comes with everything you need, meaning it comes with all the monsters you're gonna fight, it comes with all the characters you're gonna encounter, it comes with magic items, spells if there are any special spells that you might do, it comes with descriptions of towns, oftentimes they include maps that you can use, so it's kind of all there in a nice package for you to use, and so you don't have to go searching other places, you just have it and you're good to go. And that's really useful because sometimes you don't want to have to buy like 20 books of monsters to pick out the perfect monster, because this story already has the monster in there for you and everything's there. So it's really cool in that regard. The con of these adventures, the thing that I don't like about them, is it's someone else's story. And we'll get more into this in another episode, but because it's someone else's story, it's a little harder for you to learn it. That's just the nature of things. When you create something yourself, you're going to remember it a lot easier and feel more connected to it. But since these pre-made adventures are written by someone else, you're going to feel like you want to read them, you're going to want to learn them, and it's going to take a lot more effort in the preparation part. Kind of, just because you may want to know more, and if you want to run it how it's written, you're going to have to put a lot more effort into preparing for that. Versus, we'll talk about it in a little bit, your own stories, you have a little more freedom with that because they're your own kind of made up stuff. The pre-made adventures published by the company go hand in hand with the adventures published by other game masters. Now, there are several sources for these adventures, the biggest one for Dungeons & Dragons being dmsguild.com, which I will link in the description below, but there are also other sources where you can go and find these things that have been published by other game masters who have experience. Now, just because you have a little bit of experience doesn't mean you can't write a story. Just because, one GM may have like 20 years of playing, if they write a story, cool, but you can also get a story that's written by a GM who's been playing for 1 year or even a month, and they decide they wrote this adventure and they want to share it with everyone else. So they put them on these forums. Now, if you go on DM's Guild, you can often find adventures that are for free or a pay what you want kind of payment plan, which if you see the pay what you want, it's good to, give them a little tip, something, because it does go directly to the game masters who've written the adventures. But also you can find on there a lot of other adventures, larger stories that have been written over a longer period of time that are for sale. But these, just like the officially published books, comes with everything you need. You have all the creatures, you have all the characters, the places, the maps, everything's included with some cool artwork usually, and it's just like sitting down and going through an officially published book, except you are supporting another game master who's out there, creating this stuff for you to use. So that's kind of one of the perks I like about this, is you're supporting someone else when you buy these things. The other side of this is the testing, because the publishers have a lot of resources and a lot of people at their disposal to test the games, and the game masters may not have those resources. The games may not be tested as well as the officially published things. So as you're playing, you might find that some of the encounters might be a little off balance or off kilter, or things might not work as well as you might have hoped, or as smoothly as you might hope, because oftentimes it's one game master who writes it, plays it with his group of friends, sees how it works, and then they say, all right, off it goes. And it doesn't go through wave of testing like the officially published stuff does. But that doesn't mean it's bad, it just means you can be aware of that and be a little more flexible with your preparations. The great thing, this is the part I love about this stuff, is no matter the creative resources that a company has, they will never be able to match the creative output of a group of game masters. Meaning, you're going to run into a wide variety of stories and encounters and things that the publishers will probably never think of in like a million years. But like one game master will be like, this would be a cool idea, I'm going to write it. And they write it, and it's cool, and it's different and unique. So the trade-off there is you're going to have a big variety of really cool creative stuff in these Game Master adventures that you probably won't necessarily get in the officially published stuff. You might, but I see it as you're more likely to get the really cool stuff from the real players who are out there playing all the time and writing their own stuff. That's one reason I really do like these a little bit over the officially published stuff. I've played some officially published stuff. I've played some of these, kind of homebrew, other GMs, right? But my favorite is the third option, which is coming up with stuff out of your own brain. When you have a group of players and you decide to take them on an adventure, oftentimes the pre-written stuff will not fit for the players. They'll have some hooks, they'll have some little things here and there that you can add in and kind of get your players involved. But for me, the most satisfying thing is to tie in a story point with a player directly that they helped create with me that no one else knows in the entire world. And that's cool, and I feel like I can really only do that if I'm telling my own story. Now, the stories that I'm telling pull from other places, yes. there's nothing wrong with borrowing ideas from other things for your own stories, but they are largely kind of between me and the players. It lets me have a lot of flexibility at the table with the players and what they want to do. I don't feel the need to try and force them on a path of an adventure that they might not enjoy, because I can hear what they're saying and kind of take their lead and follow them along. And it's kind of like, I see being a game master kind of like that person who's, you step on a piece of paper, or maybe you did this in school where you had to like use paper to get across a room, and you had to step on one piece of paper, pick up a piece of paper behind you, put it on the floor to step on that one. To me, this is kind of like that, where I can come up with an idea, and then I'm stepping on a piece of paper, and then I have to take my players who are a little behind me and see where they're going and let them go, and then I can step on it and continue the adventure. This does make for some longer campaigns. Some things might not run as smoothly. There's no testing involved because you don't know if it's going to work until your players are there running through it. But for me, the creative fulfillment of this activity is very exciting and very interesting, and is why one of the reasons I love running games and being a game master is because of this. Like, I'd never know what's going to happen. I sit down at a table, I don't know what's happening. I can't know what's happening. I can be prepared for, the worst or the best, but I will never know until the players sit down and the game begins and gets going. And that's something I really enjoy, which is why I'm now rambling, speaking so highly of the idea of creating your own adventure, because that's what I enjoy. But I understand not everyone likes that. Not everyone feels the thrill of doing that, in which case there are the pre-written adventures by other game masters, which I also recommend. And for even more support and information and balance being a key word a lot with the game testing, you do have the pre-written adventures from the actual publisher. So those are your three main sources, and I will put some links in the description. The DM's Guild, Drive-Thru RPG, Adventure Finder, Adventure Lookup. Another source of adventures that you can kind of sort by what adventures, whether they're one-shots or campaigns, and what level, and this kind of things. Really good resources out there for new GMs to get into the reading more stories and finding more stories. So, I hope this has been helpful. I apologize again for the rambling. I'm only gonna half apologize. I ramble, that's it, deal with it, whatever. But I hope this has helped. Let me know in the comments below which of these three sources sound more appealing to you as a game master. Do you want something pre-written from the publisher? Do you want to support a smaller game master who's just learning, or who is having their own creative juices flowing and writing these books? Or do you want to come up with your own brainchild to share with your players? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, see you next time.